There's a specific kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. You can be surrounded by people. You can be loved, desired, needed, and still feel like you're watching life through glass. Because the loneliness I'm talking about isn't about absence. It's about disconnection while present. And if you've felt this, there's a chance you learned something very early, something no one ever said out loud, but your nervous system memorized perfectly. Connection is conditional. You learned that love came with rules, that closeness required performance, that safety depended on who you didn't become. So you adapted. You became easier, quieter, more useful, less emotional. You read the room before you read yourself. You sensed moods before you sensed needs. And here's the paradox, the cruel one. The very attachment patterns that once kept you safe are now the reason intimacy feels unreachable. What protected you as a child is what isolates you as an adult. Because attachment isn't just about love, it's about your body learned to survive. And survival doesn't care about intimacy. Survival cares about not losing connection, even if that connection costs you yourself. Let's slow this down, because this isn't weakness. This is psychology, biology, conditioning. At the center of this is attachment theory, originally studied by John Bowlby, but expanded now into neuroscience and trauma psychology. Attachment isn't about romance, it's about regulation. A child's nervous system cannot regulate itself, so it syncs to caregivers. And when caregivers are emotionally inconsistent, overwhelmed, critical, or unavailable, the child adapts by becoming strategic. This is where emotional neglect enters. Not abuse, not cruelty, but the absence of attunement. You weren't mirrored, your emotions weren't held, your inner world wasn't made safe, so your nervous system learned hypervigilance, constantly scanning for emotional shifts. You learned to track tone, silence, facial micro-expressions. You became an expert in anticipation. Some of you were pulled into parentification, becoming the emotional regulator for adults who couldn't regulate themselves. You learned, be strong, don't need, don't add weight. And others developed avoidant attachment, where closeness feels invasive and independence becomes armor. Underneath all of this is the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thought. When emotional safety is conditional, the DMN becomes hyperactive, looping thoughts like, am I too much? Did I say the wrong thing? Will they leave if I'm honest? This isn't personality, it's neurobiological adaptation. Your body learned love must be managed. But here's what no one talks about. The cost isn't just relational, it's existential. Carl Jung said, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. When you grow up managing attachment, you don't just lose spontaneity, you lose authenticity. You trade truth for belonging. And the grief here is invisible because nothing bad enough happened, but something vital was missed. You weren't allowed to rest into being. You were shaped into becoming acceptable. So you live with a core fear, not always conscious but constant. Fear of abandonment if you're real. Fear of judgment if you're honest. Fear of rest because rest once meant vulnerability. Seneca warned, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. But for the hyper-attached child, imagination was reality because danger was emotional, not physical. And Rilke wrote, perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage. But how do you act with courage when closeness once required disappearance? This is how loneliness forms, not from lack of people, but from the absence of being known. So how does this show up in adulthood? Let's connect the dots. You might struggle with intimacy, but crave it deeply. You want connection, but when it arrives, your body tightens. You intellectualize, you detach, you pull away, not because you don't care, but because closeness once meant risk. You overfunction in relationships. You become the therapist, the fixer, the emotional anchor. Being needed feels safer than being loved. You confuse independence with worth.
You pride yourself on not needing anyone, but underneath is a fear that needing equals burden. You have porous or rigid boundaries. You either let everything in or shut everything out, because boundaries were never modeled, only survival strategies. You live in emotional moderation. You don't fully grieve. You don't fully celebrate. You keep everything at a manageable temperature because intensity once felt unsafe. These aren't flaws, they're coping mechanisms that overstayed their welcome. And awareness isn't about blame, it's about choice, because attachment patterns can be unlearned. Healing doesn't start with fixing, it starts with softening, with letting the nervous system learn a new truth. Connection doesn't require performance. This is where inner child work matters, not as nostalgia, but as reparenting. You begin asking, what did I need that I never received? What emotions did I learn to suppress to stay connected? Shadow work helps you reclaim the parts of you that were deemed too much or not enough. And nervous system regulation, breath work, somatic therapy, slow presence teaches your body that rest is not danger. The goal isn't to become fearless, it's to become integrated, to let intimacy be mutual, to let connection be reciprocal, to let yourself arrive without editing. There's a quote I want to leave you with. You don't heal by becoming someone new. You heal by allowing who you've always been to finally exist. Loneliness doesn't mean you're broken. It means you learned to survive in a world that asked you to shrink. And now, you get to expand. If this resonated, share it with someone who's been quietly holding it together. Like, subscribe, and stay, because healing doesn't happen alone.